Hey, what up, everybody? So, happy holidays. We're getting ready to get our turkey on coming this Thursday, but we're as you know, we're well aware in Oscar season, which means tons of good movies are being released. Um, and last night was no exception to it. I got to review. I got to go to the screening for the movie Dark Waters, which was just absolutely fantastic. I cannot stress enough how good this movie was. Literally going into the movie, not knowing anything about the story, obviously being just a big Marvel fan and just Mark Ruffalo fan and all. This was a movie that, upon seeing his name attached to it, I said, okay, let's see what this Avenger got. Got to see Chadwick Boseman do 21 Bridges, which, it is what it is. You can check out that review. But, this movie is on a whole nother it's on a whole nother tier, upper echelon of just greatness. It was just a fantastic movie. As of right now, I think it's on limited release in theaters. I have no clue about when it's gonna be available to all theaters, but because apparently I think it released on November 22nd. But I did get to see it yesterday, which was November 25th, which was still considered a screening. So I'm not sure when it does hit nationwide for release or whatever. But so this movie, Dark Waters, was crazy. It was crazy. And this movie follows Mark Ruffalo, who also produced this movie as well, too, as he is a lawyer by the name of Robert Bilott. And we get to see this man take upon a case that ultimately could have just been the end of his career. He literally sacrificed everything. He sacrificed, time with his family, his newborns. He just had, he didn't have friends. All he knew was being a lawyer to his firm and his wife. But, when it came down to this, in the case that he embarked on, it drastically changed this man's life for years and years and years. So this movie is based on true events, and even reading upon it too is just absolutely crazy. So what happens in this movie is that the movie Dark Waters, it follows a farmer in a small town in West Virginia where he knows something is terribly wrong in his community, yet alone his own household, where this farmer cattle is just dying. I mean, I think he quoted of saying that he had 190 cows and they were just continuously dying. And this farmer, having a 12th grade education, just knew something was wrong. He ended up speaking to another resident inside of West Virginia who happened to be related to Mark Ruffalo's character and Robert. The other person was his grandma. His grandma referred him to him because he's a lawyer, even though he's not a lawyer in this particular fashion. And I have to be totally honest. I have no type of legal background. So, and I'll talk about that in 1 second. But so he did refer him to Mark Ruffalo's character, who initially said, "I can't help you because this is not what I practice." But it hits home because it hit where he's from. There's a crisis happening in his hometown in West Virginia. His grandma was the one that referred to him, and ultimately, this guy who's just used to representing the big companies, big chemical companies of all sorts, is actually getting ready to side with the small guy, which by every metric of what he stands for, this is completely going against that, which means this not only puts him on the line professionally, but this puts him on the line personally, his family, and everything. And what happens is that this movie is the investigation of the big major corporation in DuPont who came up with this new chemical compound C8, which is known as Teflon, which has been we had it in our household. They used it for coating for militant vehicles back in the 60s and so forth. We know it to be indestructible. The question is, this major company, DuPont, ran every business in West Virginia. I mean, every business. They were West Virginia and other sorts. They employed people. They had stakes in every single part of that state. But Teflon, and in the process of Teflon came years worth of investigation of misdoing and mishandling of chemical waste, which ultimately was poisoning the community in both the waters and so forth, because people were cooking with this stuff. The waste was being dumped in certain things, and the company tried to cover it up for years. So this lawyer and Robert Bilott, he took this case, he deeply investigated, and more unraveled, and he dedicated, I don't even know how many years, but even up until recently, present time, he dedicated numerous amounts of years in taking down this major corporation. You had this one guy who was ready to risk it all, everything, to take down this major corporation who had all the financial backings in the world. And it was just a courageous story. It was an amazing story, and it was very, very, it was so emotional. I was sitting next to a lady who was kind of mimicking some of the stuff I was doing, this. We were on the edge of our seat, not by action, but just how pivotal this epidemic of a crisis in this community was. It was just so much. Stellar acting performances by Anne Hathaway, who played the wife of Mark Ruffalo's character. Tim Robbins, who played the boss of his character. And also starred in Victor Gerbere, who's just been one of my favorite faces on films, period. This guy can do the bad guy. He can do the good guy. Nonetheless, he's just so dynamic in his acting. Another person that, once I see his name is attached to a film or a project that I know I need to check out. And also Bill Pullman, I think, was very as well. So just stellar casting, stellar acting, and as you expect. Mark Ruffalo is a producer. You can really tell that this meant a lot to him, because his acting performance is just on another level. And it was very emotional at times, because he really made you invest in this character. And let's be honest, lawyers do not get a good reputation in the world. They are known for siding with the big guys, collecting the money for the big guys, non-representation for the small business owners or the small man representation. So, just the dynamics of this story and what it meant being here, right in West Virginia is just dramatic. It's very good. I can't stress enough. But like I said, Dark Waters, for the 2 hours or so of this movie, you're very entertained. And which I was going to talk about, which I said I was going to talk about, is that not having a legal background, this movie does it. This movie details the steps of the legal process in such a way that somebody who doesn't have a legal background is able to really understand and interpret the stuff that's going on. I went with my buddy who's also a lawyer. I'm very curious to see what his review is going to be on it. Obviously, having a different perspective and knowledgeable background to interpret this movie differently than how I am. But he loved the movie as well. So that's great. Meaning, both the legal profession and both the people who aren't can enjoy this movie. But like I said, deep in the Oscar season, I will not be surprised if this movie is not on the award board at some point, because it was just damn that good. Really, really that good. And it was highly anticipated as well, too. Again, me just not watching the trailers or anything, just knowing that I've seen the cast, in other words, that I just knew that I can get behind. I said I had to see it. I'm glad I went to see it, and I just hope you guys go and check it out, because it was just that amazing. But like I said, Dark Waters, I'm not really sure technically of when the release is. There's a limited release of it being out now. I'm not sure if it's going to be nationwide, but if you can see it, however you can see it, go see it, because this is a must-see movie, period. But thank you for tuning into this review, and I'll catch you for the next one. Happy holidays, people. And please, I know I signed off for this review already, but please stay after the credits, because afterwards there is some we get to see the real people that the actors got to portray in this movie, and it's just so heartwarming to see these people, for the years and years of being exposed to these deadly chemicals, and the turmoil must have put these families in, to see them being a part of this project and so forth, and having to almost relive it, I can imagine. But seeing them being it's just amazing in itself. But again, Dark Waters, you definitely want to check this out. It's an amazing film, and I expect nothing less for it to be rewarded as such, because it's just that good. But again, thank you for tuning in, and catch you guys next time.